and we'll chop this up later. I'll figure out how to video edit, but maybe I'll just kind of start explaining what the purpose of this whole thing is. So, to give you a little bit of background, uh, just to kind of set out how I feel about online interactions and relationships, I'm not starting this in order to garner a huge parasocial audience. Like I feel like a lot of people, Gen Z, a lot of Gen Zers pursue this for. It's not something that I really desire. No, it's a different thing. It's wanting to teach and wanting to educate. Oh dude, those could be the omen from Zeus. And here's part of the education. So one of our chatters right here says they could be an omen from Zeus talking about these eagles, right? So the reason that this chatter makes such an informed comment is because he has read a lot of these ancient books and ancient texts that form what is called classical education. And here, actually, as I'll explain, we'll get this. As I'll explain the goal, we'll get this started up. So for now. Usually, what I like to do is load up a civilization, kind of explain their culture as I play them. I will modify the game in order to be more entertaining. For you Civ heads out there, that means no barbarians. I am going to do a cheesy map. This is how I do my setup. Give me 18 city-states. Give me abundant resources. And give me that large map. Cancel out 2 AI so that I can expand a little bit for fun. Start position always got to be legendary for that cheese. If I restart a few times for a better start position, yeah, that's the name of the game, dude. What are you gonna do? Come beat me up to the screen? I don't think you will. I don't think you know exactly where I live. Maybe the general area, but not exactly. Also, if you're in there, let me know if my mic is too loud or if it's too quiet right now. Again, just kind of running through this whole thing for the first time. Hopefully, doing well. I've always thought about having a career maybe in like radio. I feel like I can just talk and talk incessantly. Scott Hansen, Red Zone, thinking in the Octobox. That's a guy who live streams every single game in the NFL that's going on right now. Meaning he has to control his commentary and his speech, looking at 8 different games and making good commentary on them all. I was watching him today and I was like, that's so impressive. And here, maybe I'll just go my normal, because it's the first stream, I'll give a sense of normalcy, go my normal guy. I'm going to go Trajan here. This guy's a Roman emperor, looks like Caesar, oftentimes confused with Caesar. This is not Caesar. So his bonus is that he's going to start with an additional city center building, extra monument, which means that we'll get some culture. Maybe I'll teach you how to play Civ as we go along. So because it's Rome, all roads leads to Rome. So all of our trading posts, all of our economics are going to be high, and we're probably going to see some high military because of their military background. And you obviously see the Bath as this unique district. That's because aqueducts were heavily influenced by Roman architecture. And the Bath district was so unique to their culture, and it's not something that we have today that we can really compare to. Hey, got another in the chat. We got number 2 right there. Number 2, Gail going woohoo. 3 concurrent viewers. 1 like on the stream. Look at that. We got people promoting. We got friends in high places leading me to success in my first stream. This is 3 more people than I thought. Lit as victory or bust. I think if we're going Trajan here, and I am playing with secret societies, so we're definitely going to see a faith economy boom. And I think that we're ready to get this game started. If not, we're just going to see how it goes because, life doesn't always prepare you for the unexpected. But sometimes you just got to go with what you got. So that's what we're going to do. But anyway, as we're loading up this game, just kind of explaining what this channel is meant to be, going back to that. I know I'm going to go on tangents here. It's kind of one of my things, but I bring it back. I promise. One of the big things that I feel like is valuable. One of the things that I value the most in this society is education. I'm somebody who has a very interesting educational background. So just going through my different kind of schooling, I went to private school for elementary, public school for middle school, and a charter school for high school. And you can go through and unpack a whole lot from that. But the biggest experience that I feel like was fundamental to influencing a lot of my values and my beliefs and what I think is important as we start on a little bit of an interesting start here. We have some animals. We could definitely do an animal husbandry run. I'm thinking we have some amber. Probably do a little bit of sailing. Maybe even a great bass setup if we're going faith victory. So I think we might just set up here for funskis. But going back, there's my tangent again. Going back to what I was saying before, education is valuable and education is key, and I really believe in the idea of a public education. Now, I know that sounds ironic considering I just said that my charter school education was the thing that formed me, but I mean public education and the idea that it should be accessible to everybody, that everyone should get an opportunity to learn things, to really experience a lot of fun ideas and think critically, the same way that a lot of civilizations beforehand, before us, before America, before this kind of first world civilization, no pun intended, came along. As we're going to start with a little animal husbandry here. So we're going to build a scout. We're going to double scout early on. I like to double scout to survey my areas. I'm definitely going to track, see where I want to settle. I'll try to explain my mindset as I'm going along. But going back to education, again, it should be accessible. It should be free. And the fact that it isn't, that kind of quality education that I got is a little bit upsetting that not everybody can get it, in my opinion, because we learned a lot of cool things in that kind of system. We learned about philosophy, and we had a lot of good discussions about law and morals and ethics. And it was a really interesting turning point in American society because we still, to some degree, we still have a strong value system when it comes to our civic duty and our civic role in society. But beforehand, it was emphasized even more. Like, we learned about government, we learned about checks and balances, and we learned that the system that we had created, the More Perfect Union Project for America, was this kind of just system. And then you come 10 years later, right? Because that was around 2015. You come 10 years later, and you see the kind of state that the world is in, and you find so many people, especially so many young people, who are anxious and worried about what their future is going to hold, what it might hold, or if their future may exist at all, in some cases. Because you hear about this project of America where we see generations upon generations building for each other in good faith, right? The American project is that generations upon generations thrive when the older ones build for the young. But we're at an impasse in society where a lot of young people don't feel the benefits of this project that's been promised to them. And I feel like a big portion of that is because we devalued the sort of education and this kind of civic duty. Hey, we got another. Hey, look at that. 2 concurrent viewers, 2 in here. Mike Yates over here. Hey, wherever you're coming from, whatever you may be doing, I appreciate you coming in, brother. But going back again, everyone deserves a good education. And so I feel like I got a really good one, and I was really lucky that, again, I got into these private school for elementary school meant that I got access to a lot of good teachers and a lot of good resources that the public school kids didn't. So whenever I transferred into middle school, I was looking around, and I still did see a lot of kids who thought that these things were important, and they still valued their education. They still cared about school in a big way. And now, we're seeing all these decreasing test scores, and we're seeing a lot of kids who are not media literate and who are relying on a lot of AI generated things to critically think for them. And I think that's a fundamental misstep in the society that we're trying to create as a nation. The idea is that we're the melting pot where we look at all these ideas. It's almost like America is almost like a science where you accept all the ideas that are in here, and the ideal, I say idea a lot, but the ideal is that we talk about them and we go in the marketplace of, you guessed it, ideas, and debate them and figure out which ones are correct. That doesn't happen as much because of a lot of reasons, but I think one of the number one reasons is algorithmic social media that pushes a lot of rage bait to the top. Engagement is king, and the currency is rage, and here we are cashing all these checks. Now, I think that we can see this as a fundamental flaw in our society and analyze where we can fix things and where we can't. But I think a lot of where we can fix things is public education. Not only public education as in supporting more kids learning more things at more times. This goes beyond public education policy. It goes into habits cultivated. Oh, look at that. We already have a screen thing. It goes into, new notes. Let's type a little note here. This is the first stream, and it hasn't crashed. Okay, you can see my typing skills. It hasn't crashed so far, so that's a plus. I'll revisit this note at a later date. Okay, all right, so we got that out of the way. And we got this out of the way. So back to what I was saying earlier. Algorithms feed off of rage, and I think that it's a currency, but not all currency is valued the same. How do you value the currency of knowledge? How do you value the currency of critical thinking? And that's a currency that we're losing, and we're seeing the consequences of it in the youth. And because the youth can't critically think, they become influenced by a lot of these algorithms, and they really don't know what they believe. They know how to articulate a lot of things that have been said to them, but I wonder if they know the critical core of the critical core. I wonder if they know the crux, better word. I wonder if they know the crux of what they're actually saying in their arguments. If you're arguing on a Christian behalf, do you understand the teachings of Jesus? Have you read through the Gospels? Do you know the difference between the letters of John and Corinthians, right? Like do you know your Bible? And on the other end, on the secular end, right? Like if you are, and I think if you're fighting for justice, right, you have to figure out what justice actually is and who deserves justice and who doesn't deserve justice, and at what point, what are you going to stand up for, and when are you not going to stand up, and what are your reasons for doing so? And I feel like a lot of that thinking is gone. A lot of that thinking has kind of been set to the side, and people find these little clips. They find one-liners that arguably are as useless as they are memorable because they're usually out of context. We've devalued the role of the conversation on such a national scale that I feel like we need to go back and really meet each other face to face, not screen to screen. Ironically enough, I'm going and talking to you screen to screen. But the idea is that this isn't that rage bait engagement. This is more of a conversation that seeks to educate, that seeks to include on a public scale, right? Anybody can, well, I say anybody. Even then there's access to internet issues, right? Not everybody has access to internet. However, if you do have access to the internet, like a large majority of people do, then you're able to tune in and hear something that hopefully you can figure something out about yourself by the end of it, or even better yet, you can build a wealth of knowledge that you can continue to spread and cultivate. Hey, look at that. Civics lesson featuring Civ 6. I wish I could get into more actual civics lessons. However, I'm barely educated on the subject as it is. I don't even know who's on my local school board, right? And that's also part of the issue, right? The social media creates such insular and small communities that whenever we venture into those communities, it's easy to stay there and not think about the outside world. That's why so many modern authors write about modernism and isolation. The more and more industrialized our world becomes, the less and less we actually have to rely on each other. We don't have to go to a town square to get the meat from our butcher anymore. We also don't have to go to the cobbler to get our shoes fixed or to get new shoes. We can go to the supermart, and get everything that we need in one fell swoop. That's industrialization, and that's productivity at work. So I'm scouting out. So back to Civ, right? We can zoom in and we can zoom out. So I'm scouting out the area right now. It looks like we have a faith city-state around here, which helps our city-state income. This also helps our economy because our faith economy rather, because their suzerain bonus is built around faith. I can build a lot of infrastructure using faith where I would have to use my production or my gold. So I'm looking to send these guys some envoys, become their allies, become their friends, and I'm probably also looking to set up somewhere around this floodplain area to gain some more food resources. I see a lot of animals here, and I just researched mining, so I have to figure out where I can mine. What have I researched thus far? I've kind of been just rambling on. So I have mining, animal husbandry, pottery. So I'm actually going to go sailing next because I would like to get these resources over here. This amber, this luxury, I could trade it. I have 3 luxury resources right here. And then a few over here. And I can see this potentially being a desert city on the coast. I'd have to set up a Petra somewhere. But yeah, going back to the idea of public education, I think it should be free. I think it should be accessible. And the fact that anybody who has the access to a live streaming platform can do what I'm doing right now. It took me all but a week to really get everything together, to learn how to set up my live streaming stuff, and to just execute. I had to learn. I had to think. I had to think about what I wanted to do. I had to think about why I wanted to do it and what values were influencing why I wanted to do this. Is this worth my time? Is this worth my energy? It's going to divert me from a lot of things that I hold near and dear. Is that something worth sacrificing? And it's something to think about, right? Like a lot of people who hop on these public platforms, they risk a lot. They risk having themselves out there on a scale that in human society we haven't seen. The idea of having all the panopticon of social media creates such an illusion of everybody watching you, but also that's what a lot of people desire. But what comes with, oh, look at that, we've met Jadwiga, Poland. The king? Yes, a king. Hey, say less, dude. They must have programmed that line. A king? Yes, a king. Hey, it's an honor to meet you. Shout out. You do you, king. Love you, king. Probably going to send you gold so that we can ally up with you. Send you a little bit of deli, a little delegation. Slice of deli meat. But, again, this is an accessible platform. And that's what I like about the internet. I grew up in an internet where, and let me know if you can, if the microphone is working or not. If I'm going too far or if I'm not. I feel like this might be a good. Oh, I feel like also in the back. If you can, I won't know. I won't. Here's the thing. I'm gonna ruin the stream for you. There's a little bit of a white noise in the back. Don't concentrate on it. Don't leave the stream, please, please, please. Don't leave. Even though I pointed out the white noise, even though I broke the fourth wall and talked about what's happening in the background without you seeing it, please don't leave. I would like to have some kind of viewership. That'd be nice, considering the project. Going back to that, see, my tangents, they go back to them. I go back to them. The idea is that I want to simulate that same classical education that I got, which is simply just sitting around and having a conversation about like literature, about history, about philosophy, and realizing that a lot of the state that we're in right now isn't unique and it's not special. Not that it's not unique and special to us, because it is. Because our society is going through some changes that we haven't seen in the course of human history. I'm talking about how we get to things like strife and how we tell stories about greed and about goodness and about how we get there and about what that looks like on a human level, because obviously we live in society as us, as human beings, you and me. But there have been many you and me's, and that there have been many people, and people have issues, and people have had issues since the beginning of time. And these issues aren't unique among societies. We hate each other, but we also love each other. And we yell at each other, but we also cry together. And those kind of influx of emotions are at odds with each other. And they're some of the strongest emotions that we can feel. So how are we the society that creates these systems that both celebrates each other and brings each other apart? And why has it happened ever since we've made society, right? Those are the kind of questions that we're looking to answer here. Those are the kind of topics that we like to dig deep on. When it comes to religion, when it comes to history, when it comes to philosophy, when it comes to even theology at some points, when it comes to literature. I probably already said that, but I'm going to double down on it because it's very important. So we're at a big crossing points in our civilization society right now. We have to choose a pantheon. So we can do two things, and I'm going to go to the chat for this one. I don't know how to do a poll, but I'm just going to go by the chat. We could go number one. We could match a religion that matches Rome society, right? We could go thematic emphasis. Or number two, we could go wacky, whatever, pantheon, right? So, option number one, go historically accurate. Option number two, anachronistic. All right, ones or twos in the chat. Of my 3 viewers, there are 3 of you. So, if you don't chat, okay, so there are 3 of you here, and there are 2 people chatting. So I know if you're not chatting right now, you're not a real one. And that's unfortunate. We got a 2. Ooh, we got 2s. Okay, so from my Oh, we got a trifecta here. We have a trifecta of 2s. I think that means we have to go crazy. All right. So normally if you're Rome, you're thinking production. You're thinking, I need to go more faith. They were a pretty religious society. But I'm seeing some sailboats over here. I'm seeing some sailboats. And I think what we can... And I'm also seeing some sail resources over here. So maybe we'll lean into Rome's naval qualities. So we go plus... So we'll even... Y'all get the best of both worlds. Look at that. Combining hybrid electric and gas. We can do historically accurate and something a little wacky. Why? If you put Rome's production on fishing boats, it makes sense. And I'll tell you why right after I found this Pantheon. So what I'm going to probably do here, I'm going to wait for this granary. Actually, 7 turns for the granary. I'm going to get more benefit from the builder. So I'm going to pivot over to builder here. I'm going to build these things. But here's why this is historically accurate. So, if you've ever read the Aeneid before, the Aeneid is a story about the founding of Rome. It's about this guy named Aeneas. He's a mythological hero. Ancient Greece had so many mythological heroes, and they acted as these cultural icons. These are heroes these are role models. The closest thing we can equivocate them to is like the founding fathers in American lore, right? These are people who fought for our freedom. These are people who founded our culture. These are people you need to follow after. That's been like the narrative for so long. And Rome, right, was like, okay, Greece has heroes that they model after. Greece was a really good society, and we're going to model a lot of stuff after ancient Greece. We're going to model our pantheon of gods. Look at that. We established a pantheon, and we're talking about pantheons. We established a pantheon of gods, just like the Greeks. They're going to be the Greek gods, but this time they're going to be named after the planets because we're Rome. We're really original about this kind of stuff, and we promise we're not going to steal anything more. Spoiler alert, Rome steals a bunch of culture. I hate to say it. Whenever you become a hegemony, whenever you become an empire, you have to conquer something. Speaking of which, 50 production towards settlers. We're going to start that conquering here in just a bit. So Rome is over here kind of adopting a lot from Greek culture. And because of that, we're going to do a culture boost right here with Pingala in our government, in our city. We're going to get the amount of culture. So in civilization, we'll pause for education purposes. Civilization 6, you have a lot of economies you can run off of. Science is one of them. Culture is another. Faith is another. Money, tourism, and then you have diplomacy, right? So all of these are economies that a lot of civilizations can thrive off of. There are also different trees. So you start in the ancient era with ancient sciences. You got pottery, animal husbandry, little mining action, basic stuff. You evolve based on how much science economy you have. The more science economy you have, the quicker you evolve in the science tree. So I can go all the way from my little pickaxe over here mining, right? I'm hitting over here with my little stone. But if I invest a little bit more in the science economy, right, I get the masonry. Now I'm building walls. And they build off each other. So if I invest in mining, right, I'm going to learn how to build walls. I'm going to learn how to make some armor with bronze working. I'm also going to learn how to build a wheel. But I'm going to ignore all my pottery over here. So what happens if I ignore my pottery? Well, that means I don't know irrigation, so I can't handle my crops as well. That means I haven't invested in writing, so I'm not as smart science-wise. Because we're a science, we want to go for science, right? The library, +2 science. Look at that right there, below building, +2. That means that if I build that, I'm going to permanently have +2 in my science economy in my top left-hand corner. That 5.2 is going to be a 7.2. And all of these things cost 80 science, 50 science. So think about it. If I add 2 science, instead of getting there in 10 turns, or 6 turns, and it gives you a nice little turn counter up here too. Let me know in the chat if I'm explaining civilization. If you never played this game before, let me know if I'm explaining it well. If you played it, let me know if I sound like an idiot or not. So here again, part of the channel is education. We're gonna be a little bit casual in this first stream. I'm gonna professional it up a little bit later, but I think it's gonna be fun to look back on this because I'm gonna just be me for a second. So again, you go back to your science economy. You'll see as I start to build my science buildings how quick, and you get to track it right here. So this civilization has a little bit more science per turn, so they're gonna learn all of this stuff a lot quicker than me. So my goal is to try to match them or overtake them in science, in culture, in gold, and in faith. So they're kind of beating me right now. I have a little bit more gold, but they're beating me. But I can use this gold to my advantage. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to buy a builder. What this builder is going to do, is it's going to go over to these resources. And I'm going to be honest, guys, I have a lot of mods on this game. So this isn't straight Civ 6. I'm going to be honest with you. I have a lot of mods because without mods, this game gets boring. So a lot of these things are modded in. Whatever, cry about it if you don't think that I'm an original vanilla Civ gamer. That's okay. So I'm going to build these fishing resources over here, and then I'm going to get another builder. I'm basically going to build a lot of stuff right now. And what I'm trying to do right now is casually explain him how I'm playing this game as I'm explaining the culture of this civilization, as I'm trying to weave in humor to make it more accessible in public. Boom. What I tell you, I weave it back into my tangents, going back to public education. It's accessible. People like humor. And I think that I can communicate okay. I won't say I'm the best. Civing 6-7. I have a lot to say about 6-7. About it, about where it came from, where it went, where it can go. 6-7 is a very interesting meme. You want to talk about culture? Let's talk about memes for a second. Memes are a subsidiary of culture, whether you like it or not. Oh, 4 concurrent viewers back down to 3. I go talking about 6-7. They immediately dip out of the chat. Understandable. I get it. I get it. But memes are a cornerstone of Gen Z communication and Gen Alpha communication. They're dipped in layers of irony that you have to be a part of the cultural conversation to understand. And here's speaking of cultural conversations, let's have a conversation about what's going on right here. So there's a flashing red. I might go into the dark stage of civilization. Thoughts on the TikTok Riz party? We like to have nuanced conversations about these topics. Now, I need to make sure that I'm getting my characters right at the TikTok Riz party. If I'm not mistaken, we have Turkish Quandale Dingle as a big player in the sociopolitics of the TikTok Riz party. Turkish Quandale Dingle has some value. And there's also another person. There's Blue Tie. Are we going into meme etymology now? When are we not? When are we not? Okay? When we're talking about memes, memes are baked into our politics now on a fundamental level. There is a case to be made that in the future you have to understand the etymology of memes to understand the impact of American politics in our decade. And that's something that we have to kind of grapple with and figure out how we stand. Still don't know, still figuring it out, but back to the important conversations. Turkish Quandale Dingle and TikTok Riz Party and Blue Tie. So from my understanding, there was a dance. They were obviously doing this to a song by Ye, formerly known as Mr. Kanye West. A song, I believe it was called Carnival, if I'm not mistaken. Memes are a language. Again, if you don't know the language, whenever you talk, 2 concurrent viewers, somebody left. Somebody dipped out. That's unfortunate. It's all right. Back to 3. I look away for 1 second, and they come back. If I keep looking, and it's back down to 2. I think they're just messing with me. I think if I look away, if I take a break, it's entirely possible I come back with 14 concurrent viewers. Shout out to the 2 that are holding it down so that I'm not completely talking into the void. Even if I was, why not? As part of the beauty of education, you can think for yourself too after gaining all these tools and resources of knowledge, and you could be like me and talk to yourself incessantly, and people wonder if you're okay. Sometimes you are. Other times you're kind of wondering the nature of evil, how it got here, what's going on with it, how it manifests in society, right? And that in and of itself is kind of a language, the same way that memes are. You communicate things on a deeper level. And memes are used, ironically enough. Let's talk about a meme real quick. Let's lock into something, because I can go on tangents, but let's lock into conversation. Clip this, chat, clip this. Let's talk about the lion. The lion. How do I explain the lion? The lion recognizes that this meme format is becoming more popular. The lion also recognizes that young men seem to be using this meme format a lot more than young women. The lion also seems to be recognizing that in this day and age, young men have less emotional outlets than they used to have. The lion recognizes the value of male role models in a positive sense. And the lion sees the other lions in this metaphor. And he sees these other lions who want to join a pride. But in order to join this pride, you have to be in touch with your emotions. And the lion is not good at being in touch with his emotions. And so the lion masks emotions and vulnerability and irony to truly communicate the feelings of the lion. Chat, if you've ever been a lion, throw something lion-like in the chat. It can be a roar. It can be something lion-related. And what's funny is I was reading the Iliad the other day. And I know this is ancient Greece and we're playing ancient Rome right now. But hear me out. I was reading the Iliad. And Homer talks about Achilles, the main character. And Achilles is an emotional guy. Back down to two concurrent. I go into history and literature and I lose them. Unfortunately, that's the main thrust of the channel. They'll figure it out soon enough whenever they come back. But you talk about the Iliad. And Homer uses a very specific simile to characterize Achilles. He calls him a lion, actually. He compares his ferocity and his force to that of a lion. And ironically enough, maybe not ironically, this is, I can't read. Nah. I forgot, guys. Unfortunately, one of my chatters has informed me that I can't read, that I am illiterate. So everything that I'm saying, really, I had to transcribe through ChatGPT. I said, ChatGPT, I'm going to goo gaga into this microphone, and I need you to transcribe this into something that a stupid guy would say. And so I'm saying the things that a stupid guy would say, and from ChatGPT. Whatever's stupider, me or AI, we'll figure this out soon. But going back to the lion can't read. The lion is literate. The lion is illiterate. The lion's figuring out that this shade of irony comes from a society that neglects men's emotional needs, and so they have to express it via meme template as opposed to opening up and speaking to somebody about what they actually feel and you know, what they're saying. The lion might be illiterate, but it doesn't mean they can't audiobook the Iliad. Now, the issue is if the lion didn't study phonetics and if the lion does not know how to decipher syllables, the lion's greater overall reading scores will go down. And their test scores may lead the state to freaking out. The lion may be a student in the public education system. It's entirely possible. The lion ate the Iliad, therefore couldn't read it. You know, I haven't quite met a lion in my life that's been able to read. But I will say I have encountered quite a few people, unfortunately, due to systemic circumstances or their own, who have the literacy of a lion. I'm not going to declare war on you, King. Speaking of kings, lions, pride. Talk about it, guys. 5 viewers? That's a 500% increase from the start. I'm not even that good at math, and I can do that. I might have to pull out the calculator and check, but from what... Oh, I can establish a government. All right. Here's the best part. Here's my little chat interaction. You all, the lion may be Turkish Quandale Dingle. The lion may not understand all of the TikTok references, but the lion will do his best because cultural conversations matter. Here's the best thing. Look at all these governments that we have. We're going to evolve the society. But the best... 3 concurrent viewers. I talk about government, I talk about Quandale Dingle, and we're bad. That's my lion? Yeah, I think it is. I think it's... Really, it's our lion, chat. The fact that I can say chat and mean it now is a little bit weird. But I guess I'll have to adjust to it. You all, in my 4 concurrent viewers, get to decide which government we are going for. We have autocracy, classical republic, and oligarchy. Now again, you have any choice that you would like to make. It doesn't have to be historically accurate. It doesn't have to be... Communist chat, our lion. So we are not quite at communism, but I think one of our chatters is very keen because they're noticing, as we spoke about earlier, look at our... And by the way, look at our economies, guys. We're booming again. We went from 5 and 5 to 13 and 13. Imagine how much we're going to progress. Oligarchy, yas. Slay Queen oligarchy. We got 8. Whoa! 8 viewers. Okay. Perfect time. Welcome, everybody. Come on in. We're playing Civilization 6. We're talking about education. We're talking about society. We're building a society. We're building some foundations here. The tariffs are working, guys. We have one trade route established. Now, unfortunately, there is no way to set up mass tariffs against your opponents in this game. Now, not only do we go all the way from... Guys, it gets crazy. So not only do we have our autocracy, our classical republic, our oligarchy, we even go into theocracy, monarchy, merchant republic. We can be fascist, we can be democratic, we can be communist if we want. And then when we go in the future, all the way in the future, corporate libertarianism. Whoa. Corporate libertarianism, synthetic technocracy, or a digital democracy. Now, chat, this, of course, is a live stream, but this is also a conversation. Start talking amongst yourselves. Which of these governments do you feel like you've experienced? Which of these governments have you heard about in school? Which of these governments do you feel like you know about? Which ones do you want to know more about? Look at that. We have our first emotes in the chat. Dude, we start talking about government. We're back to 4 concurrent viewers. But you know what that means? I got to go back and play. We got, oh, all right. I got to interact with the chat a little bit more. We got Grayson Rowe, our number 3 chatter, saying, okay, I got to go back and play good pizza, great pizza, but I'll be checking back in a bit. Well, I hope that you enjoy your pizza, whether it be in video game form or edible form. I hope you do check back in a bit. We'll still be here. Can we seminar, guys? I'm tricking you all. The whole point was to seminar. The whole time. Start the side conversations, everybody. 4 people. Imagine. And here's the thing about education. So it sounds like we're going to go with the Yas oligarchy. Which probably means we are going to have to go settler expansion military tactics. So we're going to have to go more production in our military. And we did say we're going to go a naval bonus. So we'll go for 100% production in our naval bonus. So anyway, guys, let's start talking about government. I mean, we have oligarchy right now. Again, we're in ancient Rome, but we can talk ancient Greece for a second. Plato, in his Republic, ranked government systems. These government systems are not too dissimilar from the ones we have today, such as democracy. I bet that one's familiar to a lot of our local viewers. Such as oligarchy, such as aristocracy. And in Plato's evaluation, he says that democracy is the third best. Only last to tyranny. Why does he say that? Why does he say that? I'll let you think I'll give us a minute to think. And I'm not asking you to chat. You can chat if you want. That'd be great. Why do you think Plato says that democracy is the worst form of government? Think about how many good things you've heard about democracy, right? How pivotal it is to our nation. How it's the foundation of everything we hold dear. Why do you think Plato ranked democracy right below tyranny? And I'll tell you why. Because Plato saw democracy as tyranny. What does that even mean? How can it be the same thing? Why did he put his builder all the way over here when it's better over here? I'm not thinking and I'm rambling. Back to democracy. Plato saw democracy as tyranny of the masses. Specifically, tyranny of the uneducated masses. He said, if you gather everybody in a room, everybody, you take somebody out on the street, let's take 10 people out on the street, and you have them decide civic policy. This isn't what he said verbatim, but I'm kind of applying it to modern lens, because that's another aspect of this channel. We like to apply these things to a modern lens so that we can really figure out why they still exist, right? So Plato says if we take 10 people off the street and ask them to decide how our government should be run, what are the odds of 3 of them having a great idea? Not a good idea, because implementing sidewalks everywhere is a really good idea. Implementing sidewalks while still adhering to your city code, while still navigating the bureaucracy of red tape and how to establish that. Now that is a great answer. How many people of that crowd have both a great answer and a way to implement it? That's the question. How many people can do this? Well, boom! We have our first subscriber to the channel. Fantastic. That's a landmark, guys. And we celebrate the small victories. Why? They may be the only victories you have. So it's important to have that kind of perspective, right? 1 subscriber, the prime mover, the first one. We have 2 viewers. We have 2 likes, but 1 subscriber. Something ain't right there. Something ain't right. Real quick, guys, I'm going to take a break. For those 2 of you in the chat, again, only 2, but imagine the conversation that you'll have. We already have one right here. I'm going to kick this off. One of our chatters, Josh Collins, says, Plato believed too much freedom led to chaos. He also felt that flattery would prevail over truth, that democratically elected leaders were almost like salesmen who say what others want to hear to gain power. That's really cogent analysis. That's deep, and I feel like it hits on a lot of levels of society. It says a lot about humans, what we do habitually, and again, we ask, you got to ask the question why. Why do you think that these things are happening? Why do you think that this is the way that democracy is? Take a little break. Be back in about 5 or so minutes. We'll continue our conversation about democracy, about government, and about civilization while we play Civilization. For the 2 of you that are tuning in, thank you. I appreciate y'all. Literally day 1. Day 1. Got 2 day 1s in the chat. Yeah, guys, start the conversation. You might learn something about somebody else. You might learn something about yourself. See what you can do. All right, I'll be back in a few. All right. And we're back. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Oh my gosh, okay. We got some good chat going on. Let's see if I can recap as we're playing Civilization. So, get Get some water. Or some Coke Zero, really. I hope you can hear all my gross noises in the background. I don't, but you know what I mean. So, we have, again, we're going to go back to the comment that we started off with, the idea that flattery prevails over truth. That people who preside over the truth may not succumb to it, instead succumb essentially to their own flattery. That wasn't circular at all. Let me repeat that. And then we have somebody responding, Trinity Tavares responding, that whole sentiment is so applicable to current day politics, it's crazy. So crazy. How on the spot he was centuries later. How spot on he was. I can't say that I disagree, man. Excuse me. Let me know if this mutes the mic. Sorry. Got something caught in my throat. So, yeah, a lot of this is very accurate to what we see today, I would say, in that the social sentiment, at least in this country, is that politicians are for the people in principle. However, some of them may be succumbing to this idea of flattery, which again, as our chatters are saying, we're seeing a lot. And then we see I'm never gonna mute the mic. You're just gonna hear this for forever. And then we have someone saying, Gail saying, Plato also seems a little like a pessimistic a-hole with no faith in the human spirit. But then again, politics under social media definitely makes me empathize with the perspective. LOL. No, you cough loud and clear. Yeah, I know. I'll figure out the muting mic the next time. But again, kind of agreeing with the same sentence. But so then we have another side of the argument, right? Plato might seem a little bit pessimistic about whether or not the human spirit can actually prevail, which is true. Plato is a fantastic philosopher. However, there's a lot of room for nuance that he doesn't necessarily leave when it comes to his philosophies. I appreciate the way that he breaks down things in very logical terms. But once we start to go into those logical terms, he creates this arena of thought that if you step outside of the truth in some cases. Because I think he has good philosophical arguments, but if you break them down at their core, the nuance may not be applicable at all times. So when you're trying to fit a perfect moral system onto an imperfect society with people that you can't calculate, then things start to get muggy, right? How well can those systems function if you can't always predict the outcome of the machine? You can align people in different ways and in different categories, but you forget that people will become aware and will want to outgrow those categories, which is perfectly fine. Where did my second settler go? Did I even spawn him? Something about me. I have 2 dogs. And, oh, look at that. 1 viewer. Now I'm really in there like swimwear. I'm signal boosting the stream a little bit. Let me know if you guys can hear the basketball that's going on in the background. I really hope that's not the case. If so, I'm going to eliminate that noise immediately. Although and we could go on about, and And we could pivot from Plato to basketball pretty easily. I could figure out a pivot. Where would you... Do y'all want to stay on Plato? Or do y'all want to talk a little bit of hoops? We got Plato and hoops. Because I can tie Greek culture into hoops pretty easily. But it's all about... Again, I like where other people are in control of the conversation, and I kind of have to try to find a way to meld it all together. Oh! We can hear the hoops. And I'll tell you which game it is. It is Victor Wembanyama playing the New York Nets. A fantastic game. I could go on about Wembanyama, but what I will really do is I will go on and turn off the background noise. Educate me, Hoop Man. All right, other viewer. Are we pivoting to hoops? Are we pivoting to hoops? All right, 3 concurrent viewers. Fantastic. If you're just joining us right now, we are playing Civilization 6. We're explaining the purpose of this project right now. It is a channel based around education in an accessible way that enhances critical thinking skills, adds humor, perhaps a little bit of gaming here and there, but the main vehicle for this channel is education. WD40 in the chat saying 3 viewers, baby. Hey. It's 4 now. Look at that. We're talking about how much we've increased. Wemby is the philosopher king. Look at that. What a pivot. What a pivot. Here's how you pivot into that. Let's talk about Victor Wembanyama. We can tie this to classical education pretty easily. Let's talk about Victor Wembanyama's offseason, y'all. This offseason, Victor Wembanyama did some crazy kind of training. Normally for a rookie, normally for a second-year player, right? You're thinking, go live a little. You got some money. Go to the Bahamas. Go back to France, right? Vacation a little bit. Have some fun. You're a superstar. You're signing all these deals with Nike. You're hanging out with these celebrities. You're an ambassador for Louis Vuitton. Go enjoy yourself. Wemby says, I'm built a little bit different. Why is he built different? Because Wemby's a scholar. That's the difference. Wemby dedicated his offseason to training not only his body, but his mind. And when you think about athletes and what they do, obviously the physical is necessary. But the mind connection to the physical is when you start to truly unlock your human potential as an athlete. Because talent can only take you so far. You can be talented. But if you sit around all day doing nothing, how talented are you? What have you brought to the world? Wembanyama says, I don't want to just be talented. I want to be great. I want to be one of the greats. And not just one of the greats of basketball. Like a virtuoso. He wants to change the mold of what it means to be a basketball player. Of what it means to be an athlete. And with his frame and with his size and with who he is, his personality, the way that he looks so weird on the court and in person, he wants to change, in some ways, what it looks like to be human. Because you look at him, and you have to look up at him every single time. Imagine what people write their myths about. Creatures that they don't understand that they see out in the wild. And they're like, that's the biggest wolf that I may have ever seen. So now our entire mythology is going to be based about this wolf and its crazy power. And the symbol of the wolf is going to be so prevalent throughout our society. And then you look at a guy like Wembanyama, and you think about, like, if I saw that, and by the way, this game is not going too well for me, by the way. I'm not going to lie. They have 5 cities. I have a little one. I got 1, but we're on the come up. That's the thing about Civ, is that you start low, and then you start to get a little bit higher, and then you start to escalate, and then you're there. And then you're there. So again, we're Trajan, we're a Roman civilization. We're looking maybe to go for a science victory, militaristic. We had a plan. We started talking, and now we're back on to mythology and NBA basketball. And I could write a whole thesis on the role of cultural mythology within the NBA, how pivotal it is to sports, and understanding that humans don't just grow out of myths, that they retell myths. The legend of Michael Jordan, the legend of Tom Brady. I mean, these are our modern day Hercules. This is modern day Achilles. And when you talk about legends, it's called the Achilles freaking heel. Like, he influenced medical terminology, and if you call it something different, it looks weird. When you talk about cultural impact, that's like linguistic impact, that's medical impact, that's, if you want, you can throw so many things over that and just be like, dang, that's kind of crazy how the story of one guy influences our culture. And you think about the story of Michael Jordan, and you think about the story of LeBron James, who has a case for GOAT. But Wemby's right on his tail. And it's not like, if he does this for 2 more years and he wins 2 championships, he might be the GOAT. If he makes the play, the Spurs are going to make the playoffs. The Spurs are going to be the 7th or the 8th seed. The Spurs are going to be a very dark horse candidate. Or, optimistically, the Spurs are going to dominate this year. Because the Spurs are 3-0. Without De'Aaron Fox playing, without Jeremy Sohan playing. And they're not against scrub teams. The Mavs. Wemby made Anthony Davis look pedestrian. And that's a little bit disturbing, considering he's only in his 3rd year. And he trains his mind, going back to the education, he trains his mind along with his body. He goes to the Shaolin Temple, not just for the photo op. It wasn't even a photo op in mind. People came and saw him. He went there to enlighten himself. Virtuoso is an interesting choice of word when transferring that from music to sports. What makes an athlete a virtuoso? If they're an artist in their field. Now that is a very interesting distinction when you talk about sports and art. Because you could also talk about Wembanyama as a virtuoso because of his leak. Oh, you hear that? A little buzz in the background? It wasn't the birds that I was talking about at the beginning of the stream. If you were here earlier, you understand that reference. It was the electric box. And I'm coughing in the mic. Very, very radio-like of me. So the idea is that Wemby doesn't only affect sports, he affects broader culture. He's putting France on the map. If any of our viewers here watch the Olympics, watch the gold medal game against France, and watch Steph Curry go nuclear against France, then you would understand the impact that sports has on a country, on a society, and on a people, right? Speaking of, I'm going to multiply my people, and I'm going to go settler. I'm going to queue a couple settlers here because what I've been doing is talking and slacking my civ, but I think I can make up for lost time. But you talk about Wembanyama as this virtuoso. I mean, he's also not like, he's one of a kind, dude. Because he's not only 7'6", he's 7'6", and 5 viewers. Look at that, we got 5 more. I talk Wemby talk. Wemby Talk's bringing him in. I should have just named this stream Civ and Wemby. Speaking of Civ, I just became... Well, I was already Valletta's suzerain, so I can purchase things with faith. Which means I need to get my faith economy up and rolling. So, I need to place things around mountains, because mountains give me my faith adjacency bonus. I imagine the idea behind that is that people find some kind of divine meaning around mountains, thus the bonuses increase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to place a holy site right here. Maybe my settler... And this is what's so fun about Civ is you can plan stuff. Look at these little... Oh, puppies. Puppies. Is that what you're doing? Is that what you're doing, puppies? And they're silent. As soon as I accuse them of being bad. And watch, as soon as I'm quiet, they're going to be loud. And they're gone. They're out of here. Anyway, so I'm going to establish this city right here. So planning into the future, I have that holy site right there. It's entirely possible that I can put a campus right here to increase some science bonus. Wemby Talk has dropped our viewership by 2. Apparently my stream status is excellent. Let's be transparent. Let's look at some... See how we're doing. Oh, we got some hearts in the chat. First time getting some hearts. I've seen them done on other streams. Never happened to me. I feel so special and unique. It's awesome. Wemby and Daft Punk, France's greatest exports. And that's what I'm saying. That Wemby's more than just a basketball export. He's the ambassador for Louis Vuitton. He's a cool looking dude. He likes chess. He's very into literature. I think he is not only somebody who values greatness in sports, I think he's somebody who values greatness as greatness. I think he's somebody who sees the aspect of greatness and just applies it to his life. And says, how can I be the greatest? And who influences greatness in this field of work? Why do you think he went to work with Kevin Garnett, one of the best defensive players of all time? Why do you think he's trying to balance the intensity of Kevin Garnett's personality with the lessons of the Shaolin monks about calmness? He understands yin and yang. He's a very worldly guy. He reads a lot. He's disciplined. It's not just greatness in skill and stature. It's greatness in attitude and discipline. And that's what really separates him from the pack. Because think about somebody like Bol Bol. A player like Bol Bol, who Shaquille O'Neal is trying to say, Wemby's the same guy. How can Shaq make that comparison now when Wemby is moving like a guard? And how can he move like a guard if he doesn't know how to maintain his body? And how does he know how to maintain his body if he doesn't have 2 things? Number 1, self-knowledge, and number 2, discipline. Because it's not easy to support that frame. He's a freaky looking dude. I'm not going to say he's not, right? Freaky looking guy. And there's a way that these careers go with some of these people who have these long limbs and they're limber. Their careers don't last very long. But Wembanyama wants to figure out how to be great. Not just great as basket. 6 viewers. 6 viewers here in the chat. That's crazy. It is really crazy. I thought I was going to have like 1 or 2. I thought that would have been nice. I would have been happy with 1. I'm happy that I have 6. I'm happy when I have 2. If I just have 1 person come in here listen to me ramble, dude, that's what it's all about, right? Renaissance man. Yes. Wemby, I think, could be considered a Renaissance man if he continues to venture out. I mean, now is he a Leonardo da Vinci? Now I'm not going to say he's over here inventing the tank. But it could be argued that he's reinventing basketball. Thoughts on Paul Pierce getting arrested today? I have thoughts on Paul Pierce as an individual, both as a player and an analyst. My thoughts on Paul Pierce getting arrested today are heavily tied to my thoughts about gambling. Not just sports for viewer. I talk about gambling, they're gone. Here's the thing. Now Sports Draft Kings book. Sports Kings Caesar Book Finance. LLC will never give me a sponsorship. Caesar Book Draft King Kevin Hart sponsorship LeBron James commercial will never get a sponsorship on this channel. because their business practices are unethical and they're ruining the ethos and the humanity of sports. And Maple over here is crying about this ruining of sports as well. She's over here, she said, Papa, I knew you were talking about Paul Pierce and the gambling situation. I'm also deeply invested in this. She said, I got on my dog phone and I checked my ESPN dog app. And it said, bark, 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 bark. Paul Pierce, bark, bark, gambling, bark. Which roughly translates to Paul Pierce and Terry Rozier investigated and arrested in a gambling case that was seen over by the FBI. So we saw the same headline. It was just translated a little bit differently. And she said, "What?" And now she's over here thinking, Papa, what are your thoughts? And one of my viewers says, what are your thoughts? So I feel like I have to give my thoughts. Or when he pooped himself in Game 7. Now, as much as I would like that to be true, Mr. Pierce himself claims that this was cramps, that he had cramps, and he was hauled away on this wheelchair because he was cramping up. Is this true? Can I confirm? Can we get this confirmation? Is this true? Oh. I'm misinformed. I confused my NBA players. Paul Pierce was not arrested for gambling. My apologies, chat. I hate to spread misinformation. This is where I correct myself. I'm an honest man. Paul Pierce was arrested for a DUI. So because of that, going back to my previous point, my thoughts on Paul Pierce as a person and now as an analyst have changed with this new information. And I think this is not necessarily right up his alley. But if one were to say this is right up Paul Pierce's alley, would I give them a second eye? Probably not. What a representative of the NBA. Now, here's the thing. Paul Pierce has done minimal damage to the sports ecosystem compared to Stephen A. Smith. And when I say sports ecosystem, I'm primarily talking about sports journalism. Anybody, any sports fans in here? Anybody in here? Stephen A. Smith denouncer? I won't say hater. Hater's a strong word. Anybody in here a Stephen A. Smith denouncer? I'll wait for chat to catch up. We love a man who can change his opinion in the face of new evidence. Well, if I can't do that, what can I do, really? I mean, he did get fired from ESPN for flirting with IG baddies, hashtag the truth. That is the crux of the argument, yes. I do believe there could, now correct me if I'm wrong, again, my information may not be completely intact, but there could have been some Henny sipping in there as well as on a live stream. And there may have been some other substances being passed around that were not ESPN appropriate, considering that ESPN is owned by Disney, which has a lot of implications for sports, culture, and other things. But I think it goes to the idea of Paul Pierce becoming an analyst is not surprising, because it's an idea of, and you're going to love this, get ready for this. Indeed, there was a little bit of Henny sipping. Unfortunately, there were things going on that perhaps were not vetted by ESPN. But here's the thing, y'all, and here's how we tie it back, and here's how we make it educational. Paul Pierce suffers from what Plato had described earlier. Plato's idea of democracy is that anybody can rule as long as they are the masses. So Paul Pierce is one of these guys who democratically was voted into sports journalism, because sports journalism is pivoting to having more athletes become sports journalists, which is good, because you would like to hear, again, in a democracy, you want to hear multiple perspectives, y'all. That's the whole point of the project is to hear everybody out in the marketplace of ideas. And when you hear somebody out as an athlete, you want to hear their experiences. What is it like making this game time decision? How do you really walk me through the mindset of somebody who has the ball in their hands with a shot with a game on the line, right? But when you start to pivot over to sports journalism, a medium that has these ways of manifesting. Plato reference on stream goes hard. You're new here. It's a whole Plato reference. When you have these people who are democratically elected into spaces where they may not be experts because they don't understand the processes of things, you get people like a Paul Pierce who I can value his opinions as a basketball player and somebody who's been in that position. The same way that I can value somebody's opinion in democracy who's been through things. But at the same time, you don't know the systems, Paul Pierce. You don't know the education that somebody had to go through in order to be a sports journalist, how to vet sources, how to determine what to publish and what not to publish, when you should go on Instagram Live doing a little bit of Henny sipping, passing around some things you shouldn't be passing around. At that point, you have put the power into the hands of the masses. You have simulated Plato's democracy. Those who are qualified are not promoted. Those who are qualified are quiet and don't get placed in positions where they might be better suited or belong. So you get Paul Pierce, who I value as a player, I value his opinion. Him and the Celtics pieced up LeBron a couple times, so I got to give it to him there. But maybe I don't want to hear your take on sports journalism because you didn't go to sports journalism school. And that's what the argument boils down to. Let the educated people make educated decisions. I value your opinion where it belongs, but stay in your lane. And democracy says staying in your lane is authoritarian, which in some cases it is. But maybe it's just authority and not authoritarian or authoritarianism. Who knows? Plato reference on stream goes hard. I love that line. It's all a Plato reference, man. Esco, if you are who I think you are, I'm really glad you're here, dude. Really glad you're here. What about Michael Jordan, who is just now starting his broadcasting career after arguably the best NBA career ever? So from my understanding, and we can go back to legacy talk. I didn't even know I got a natural wonder here. Legacy talk, right? So legacy, the story that you want to leave behind, is very important to ancients. The story that we leave behind. What's the legacy of ancient Greece? What's the legacy of ancient Rome? What's the legacy of Achilles? What's the legacy of Julius Caesar? What's the legacy of Augustus? What's the legacy of Rome's architecture? What's the legacy of ancient Etruscans now that ancient Rome has taken over? We can debate this all day, right? What I'm trying to say is cultures value legacy and all cultures value legacy. Whether it be stories that you tell around the campfire, ancient epics that you read around the campfire, or the stories that you have to make because you're too poor, you can only afford to build a campfire. Either way, we value legacy. Michael Jordan values legacy. He wants to be known as the GOAT because he has an ego. And in my humble opinion, you can't be great without having an ego because you have to have irrational confidence at times. Irrational confidence is fun. It gets you to places where you think you wouldn't be, and you may have imposter syndrome at times, but irrational confidence gets you places. I had to take a swig of Coke Zero. I feel like Scott Pilgrim. Both don't have degrees in it being sports journalism. So, recapping. Both Paul Pierce and Michael Jordan don't have degrees in sports journalism. But if Michael Jordan speaks, I'm going to listen. And therein lies the thing, the ethos of it all. What's my battery at? 20%. We'll rock it till the wheels fall off. 20%. 20% battery. So the reason that Michael Jordan can talk his talk is because he's walked his walk. Paul Pierce pieced up LeBron once. Paul Pierce also got pieced up by LeBron. He had his welcome to the NBA playoffs moment. Irrational confidence got me into music. See? Irrational confidence is valuable. Now, if you feed too much into irrational confidence, that might become pride and headstrong. You want to talk about Aristotle? Talk about Aristotle's golden mean and virtues, right? I'm really liking this Coke Zero, y'all. Whatever they put in Coke Zero, I'm going to find out it's going to poison me later, but I'm going to really enjoy it while I'm here. But that's where we were. Irrational. See, when I have these conversations by myself alone, this is why I like talking to y'all, chat. And the fact, it's really funny because I probably know you all personally in some way because it's my first live stream given my audience. I'm just referring to the body of people here as chat. And again, y'all can talk to each other. That's cool. But I appreciate y'all stopping by. And as soon as I call y'all chat, one leaves. 2 Gen Z. 2 Gen Alpha. Oh, I'm at war. Okay, apparently I'm at war. Anyway, so we're talking about legacy. Let me know if y'all want to keep talking about legacy or if you want to pivot somewhere else. I can talk about anything under the sun right now. First stream. Excuse me. I will not let that happen again. And it will happen twice more after I say that. So please don't hold me to that. Or do. 3 viewers. The burp let everyone down. The burp let everyone down. Oh, the burp brought someone back. Look at that. Clap. Oh, do you hear those children in the background? I have 2 dogs. They're both little weenie dogs. And if you know anything about weenie dogs, is that they're very easy to train and they're very quiet. Cooperative breeds. Not really giving me enough trouble. As you can tell, that was irony. What civilization are you? Excellent question. And why isn't it the Roman Empire? I am so happy to destroy your expectations. I can't tell you how happy that just made me to completely subvert what you thought. Completely subvert what you thought. I am the Roman Empire. Who else would I be but the Roman Empire? Clip that. That's my first clip. Put it on shorts so that it can brain rot the popularity of the U.S. Brain rotted, yes. Isn't that an interesting term, brain rot? Brain rot's a post-irony term in that it's ironic because it acknowledges the process of your brain rotting, but also purposefully neglects your acts in it, in rotting it. Clip that, chat. Little Roman Empire subversion of expectations pivot. It's going to go perfect on the shorts. The text and everything. Hopefully I laughed extremely loud in the mic. Hopefully I hurt your ears. I'm kidding. Let me know if always let me know how stream's going. Let me know my volume's too loud. Let me know how we are doing real quick. Six viewers, dude. That's the most I've ever had. Wait, is it? Did I have 8 at one point? I don't know. but I think we're doing pretty well. First time going out here. Ideally, I'm not looking back and thinking, oh my gosh, I was so quiet and unafraid to speak into the mic. I do a lot of speaking for work, so it makes sense why. I do a lot of speaking to my... Oh, so this city's gonna die. Oh, okay. I've been ignoring that. There's a whole catapult. And a whole spearman. And a builder. Okay. So I need to pivot away from Holy Site and probably go towards a Legion. Oh, baby. Oh, baby, I know what I can do. All right, Archer, you're going to hold your ground. We are going to talk about the Legion. 8 for 2 minutes or so. That's a pretty good number. That's more than 4 and less than 10 from what I can calculate, from what I've been able to calculate. I've been using a calculator for those off stream, guys. Math is not my strong suit. I can kind of explain Dostoevsky's belief of the human soul and how it's tied to Orthodox theology. But if you ask me 3 times 3 times 2 times 5, I'm not going to be in a good situation. It's not. I'm going to be humbled. But I can do math. 6 is less than 5. I hope you know I'm not like being rude about the viewers. I'm having fun, and I hope you're having fun here too. Because you could be watching Sunday Night Football. You could be talking to a loved one on the phone. You could be reading a good book. You could be watching a good movie. You could be making some good food, but you're here instead, and that's really cool. That's really cool. So let's get back on the topic of legacy. Let's talk about ancient Rome's legacy. I watched this really funny video the other day, and it was of this guy. I don't know if he was like, it was today actually. I don't know if it was this guy or if it was this teenager, and it looked like he was either doing an odd job or somebody was just going up and interviewing him, and they were asking him his thoughts about the Roman Empire, and he talked about it, and he said that he really dislikes the Roman Empire because of the way that they had treated the other civilizations around them, and what they did to the German people and to the Celts. And I feel like it's a very modern view of the Roman Empire, because a lot of people historically have viewed the Roman Empire as this obviously hegemony of power, but this hegemony of culture. And hegemony of culture of itself. They talk about Roman culture, right? But when you start to delve into the academics of it, right, there's a lot of stuff that the Romans had borrowed from other cultures. I mean, take the ancient Greek. We were just talking about this earlier, right? The theology, the pantheon, the belief system, the way that the gods were set up, they took that from the Greeks. A lot of the Etruscans, the way that they had celebrated in their funerals, their architecture. So ancient Rome is known... Ancient Rome is going to be known for losing Mediolanum soon. I'll tell you what. So what I need to do is, I get this archer out of here, and we're going to spawn the Legion. We're going to get some Legion work. Oh, it's a Man-at-Arms. We're going to get a Man-at-Arms in here. And we're on our way to a Golden Age, so hopefully we get that Golden Age here soon. Get a nice little buff, nice little bonus. 3 viewers. We're talking Roman Empire. We go back down to 3 viewers. But anyway, back more on the Roman Empire. So a lot of people are going back and looking at the Roman Empire like, hey, we got a lot of good stuff from it. But at the same time, what it's not even like... Because on one level... You have, imagine how much they had borrowed from those cultures. On another level, you have how much could they have borrowed from cultures that we don't know about because things are lost to history, right? History being written by the victors is a very common term for a very good reason. Because we're not going to see a lot of this other historical stuff. And we're back to 1 viewer. 1 viewer! My 1 viewer holding it down. We'll only be here for a little bit more. Again, we're rocking to the wheels fall off. We only have 13% left on the MacBook. We'll see how long this goes. 2 hours isn't too bad. I feel like I can cut a lot of things from this 2 hours. We'll figure it out. But we are looking at a society in a very critical context, in a very critical lens. And the broader conversation becomes, what could those cultures have possibly been? Imagine if the Etruscans never saw the Romans. Imagine if these land masses were not that close to each other. What could the Etruscans have been? What could the Germanic people have been? And what does the course of history look like with these changes? And it's really interesting to think about. So, do you think about Rome as this cultural powerhouse that brings so much to the world that we can't ignore? The Roman influence on politics, on government, Cicero, the consulship, checks and balances, we use that in theory so much. But the question is, and I really think a good question about this is, could other cultures have possibly gotten to that level? And I feel like that's also the thrust of the argument, right? Could the other cultures have survived? Like if Zanzibar takes over Mediolanum right now, how does that, and if we pretend that Zanzibar is Carthage and we pretend that Mediolanum is Rome, how does that change the course of history if Carthage wins in the Punic Wars? What happens if Rome doesn't become the military power? What happens if we don't have the Battle of Actium? What happens if Caesar never gains power? He's never stabbed in the back. Shakespeare never writes Julius Caesar. So we already see an influence on literature. Imagine the influence on politics. Would we still be a representative democracy in our country? Or would we be something different? And is that determined by the history of the victors? Or is that determined by a better culture? And when you get into the better culture argument is when you start to get into iffy territory, because what makes a good culture has been debated for decades and it's still being debated. We don't know what makes a great culture yet because there's never been the perfect culture, man. We all still have our problems and issues and differences no matter the time period or whatever. When an empire becomes as large as Rome was at its height, when an empire becomes as large as Rome was at its height, it's almost impossible to be completely homogenous. I agree. Because where does the oneness of homogeneity come from? Who is determining the oneness? Who is the one group? Is it all Romans? Because the Romans certainly didn't have the idea of the American dream. And I think of the American dream as the Ellis Island Project, where everyone comes in, everyone has a spot, you know. They were very clear that if you don't fit their lifestyle, things won't go as well. And we see, and look at that. Just like this, just from spawning this man-at-arms, we might be able to save the city from certain doom. It's entirely possible. But again, if I didn't save the city from doom, how would history change? Who knows? Especially considering it's a Roman city. But we get rid of this catapult, or we're almost getting rid of this catapult, which I think is good. We'll have to see if it survives the next two barbarian hits. I might be kind of confident in the archer's health. My men-at-arms might have to do a little swap-ski here. And then we'll be good to go. Hey, if you're in the chat right now, we might not have enough time on the stream. My computer's at 11%. We'll rock till the wheels fall off, but let me know how the stream, if you're going to tune out. Yeah, I get it, man. Have a good night. Or woman. Or they, them. Whoever. Whoever's here. Everybody's here. I hope everybody's here. Because that's the idea of this channel. Is that everybody's here, everybody's talking, everybody's having a conversation. So again, I get that low battery. That's fine. We'll rock till the wheels fall off. Let me know how things are going. Let me know if you're in the chat right now. Let me know something that you feel like you learned, something that you feel like you could expand on. Let me know how things are going. We ought to play some Minecraft or stream sometime. Hey, man, let me know. Hop on. We can hop in Discord. We can do something. I'm here for it. We can talk about some deep stuff, have some good conversations. That's what it's all about. That's what life's all about. Again, we're here to simulate life. We're here to have good conversations. We're here to have a good time. Minecraft on stream. That looks like a positive emoji. We could do some Minecraft and talk here. And I think this could possibly be OMFG, yes. Look at that. We have some agreements here. So I think what we could do is because, and here's the fun thing, is that when you really have the reins of life is when you realize you can do anything with the time that you have, regardless of what other people think. People will say things about what you have to do. Some people could say that me streaming is a whack idea, and that's totally fine. But I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying myself, and I really plan to do this for a while. It's something that I've been really passionate about. Some way to get my voice out there. Some way to talk into a void that that has substance in some way. You know that if I can change someone's mind. Not even change someone's mind. If I can give somebody a different perspective about something, if I can make you feel smarter about something, that's super cool. Maybe I could pivot this into the gaming channel, and we could have a different channel where we hear the dogs in the background. Where we, no, I kid, I tease, I love these dogs. Maybe something along the lines of, this is sit down, let's play, but let's talk, and then we can pivot to a more formal format when I have more planning, more time, and frankly more people to talk to. Because everybody that's been here in the chat so far that I know of, I can sit down and have a great conversation with you. We could talk about something. It can be anything under the sun. You don't even have to use your name. You can go under. I know that publishing yourself out into the void, especially on the void of the internet, has its consequences, and I understand the risk, and I'm here to take that risk, because with great whisk comes great reward, as Elmer Fudd won. With great risk, that's a pretty good tongue twister. With great risk come, fourth time's the charm. With great risks come great rewards. I made it plural. I messed up, but you wouldn't know that if I didn't tell you. It's nighttime in Civ. I feel like that's cue for nighttime on the stream soon. We'll see how much my little, I have the little MacBook that could. Eventually, who knows? Maybe I'll start. One day we'll get to the point where this can be monetized, and I can just have these conversations, get paid for them for fun. But as the computer's dying down, I think the stream is dying down. I think the gameplay will probably die down for a little bit, and this is the part where I have a conversation with you. 4 viewers. This is the part where I like to have conversations with my chat. We'll kind of review, do a little recap of everything that's been going on. Man, a lot of dialogue going on. I appreciate the concurrent viewers who are popping in and starting some dialogue. We started off talking about Civ 6, talking about strategies of Civ 6. Mr. Josh Collins, our number one chatter, I think, for the day, says he used to play Civ 6, Evil Gandhi, 8-hour matches, Die Hard Julius Caesar main. We transitioned from Civ to trying to figure out if the stream was working as well. It was. Everything's good. We had some choices. We made some twos. Civing 6-7. Small little highlight. We shared our thoughts on the TikTok Riz party and meme etymology. Very enlightening conversations. Again, if you're not here to catch up, you gotta be here, man. You gotta be here. We chose government in Civ 6. I found out that I can't read, bro. Which is unfortunate considering the goals of this channel are education. We talked about the lion and how the lion uses itself as coded and irony to communicate more emotional sides of the lion. We talked about oligarchy, forms of government, tariffs, pizza, teacher turning and talking, seminaring, and we transitioned well to Plato. We talked about Plato and how Plato's view of democracy is interesting and how it's contradictory to how we view democracy. Plato's view of democracy is more along the lines of he thinks that we're the dumb masses in some way, that if we form too many opinions at once, none of the opinions will matter, and that the masses will become ignorant and lead. And we had a nice conversation about that, about Plato. We transitioned to talking about basketball, about concurrent viewers, about if Victor Wembanyama is a virtuoso, what a virtuoso really means. We talked about Paul Pierce. We talked about sports journalism. Talked about the ethics of whether or not, maybe not the ethics, but the consequences of whether or not athletes should be sports journalists. What happens there? Talked about Stephen A. Smith, a future. Oh, I can go. Stephen A. Smith, future DNC candidate. Again, talk about people who are going into systems they may not be familiar with. We'll see if Stephen A. Smith has success with his politics. A lot of alliteration there in this stream. Talked about Michael Jordan. Talked about irrational confidence. We pivoted back to civilization. And we talked about the Roman Empire. We had the first clip of the stream pivoting to the Roman Empire. They thought I wasn't playing. I was playing as the Roman Empire. We talked about the Roman Empire, about how culture may be informed by history, and history rewards the victors. Therefore, culture may be informed by the victors. We are going into... Dust. Hello. Hello, Mr. Devars. This is Connor. I'm glad Connor's here, everybody. Connor's a very important person. Very important person. I appreciate Connor a lot. And Connor's the specific kind of person that I'm making these things for. People who just want to learn. People who just want to be open to new ideas. See how they compare to the ideas they already know. What different ideas we can see. What we believe, what we don't believe. Just again, the purpose is education. It always is education. If you're not educated, who are we, right? Anyway. Well, I don't know. I might do this weekly. We'll figure this out. I feel like Sunday's a good time. You could be watching primetime football. I'll definitely be doing this after I log off here. You could be reading a good book. You could be making some food. Could be on the phone with a loved one right now. But for some reason, for some odd reason, you decided to tune in here today. I don't know why. I don't know what led you here, but I'm glad you are here. We'll figure out exactly how to end this stream. Oh, so it turns out if you look at the very complex YouTube AI UI format, there's a large white button that says end stream, and if you click it, that's what happens. And I took my glasses off a while ago, so seeing that my visibility had changed. But again, I appreciate everybody who's coming through. I hope to see a lot more people here. We'll figure out what this channel is going to be. But thank you all for being here. 1 hour 50 minutes. We'll figure out what we can chop up. 5% MacBook power. I think that's key for getting on out of here. Loved listening today. Who knows? Maybe we'll do this daily. I kind of like the daily idea. Just kind of, this is what I do normally. Just kind of think to myself, we'll do it out loud. Maybe we don't even have to do Civ. We could just. I feel like it might even be better to just like stream a whiteboard. No, let's get a whiteboard set up somewhere. I can have a camera that's right above. We can just draw these things, and then this can really become an education thing. I wanted to use gaming as the entryway, because you got to figure out how to communicate with people, and internet knows how to communicate with gaming. So if you can speak to them through that medium, hopefully you can find a different medium to speak to them through. 2 hours of my time, rather be nowhere else in the world than right here, right now, with you people. Thank you for tuning in. I'm out. We'll see what this becomes.